joined by VolQuest's Brent Hubbs on the eve of part one of Tennessee and Vanderbilt on a day where we still don't have a decision on Joey Aguilar. Lots to get into, as always. Brent, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Hubbs.
Good morning, guys. Hope you guys are doing well on this Friday.
Absolutely.
We're doing all right, Brent. And I know for many in the state of Tennessee, and especially in East Tennessee, it is a heavy and a hard day. And we felt like it was right, Brent, to start off with the news of Wes Rucker's passing yesterday in a car accident on I-40 and just gone entirely too soon, Brent. I know this is a journalist you had worked alongside on the Tennessee media corps, someone you've known for a long time. I just wanted to give you the chance to remember him, Brent, and really just react to what was a really, really horrible breaking news story yesterday.
Yeah, it's a tragedy. And, I had the pleasure of knowing Wes when he was a student worker at the Daily Beacon, and he got his first, quote, big boy job, as he liked to say, for the Chattanooga Times Free Press. And, he was unabashful, and he was young, and he was energetic, and I was a little bit older, but I was cocky, and we butted our heads many a times, and we just laughed about him the last decade plus of different things that we would both look at each other and go, man, can you believe that, like, that bothered me, or it bothered you, or whatever? I mean, it was just over the dumbest things. And, Wes was one of one, and he loved to debate. He loved to discuss. He loved being a journalist, but those all paled in comparison for the love that he had to be a dad and to be a husband. And, he chose to make his private life very public through social media and different things he did. And anybody who followed him has no question just how important it was in his life to not just be a dad, but to be a great dad. And Hank was his world, and, he was Hank's hero. And I just hurt for Lauren, his wife, and his 4-year-old son, and they've got a daughter on the way later this spring. And if you believe in prayer and you're about prayer, I just ask that at some point today you take a minute and just pray for them in the coming days, weeks, and months, because it's just a tragic deal. And it's just life is precious, and we have no idea why or when. And again, he was a journalist that loved to debate and stir up with people, but at the end of the day, he had one priority or two priorities, and that was to be a great dad and to be a great husband.
Hubbs, man, it's fascinating you bring it up as well, and like the Daily Beacon side of it, man. I think so many people look at the finished product of sports reporters or people that's doing their jobs and just think, oh, man, you just got here. Like, no, he was on the beat early, man. I think it's just a testament to him passing right now and the amount of people that are shocked, sympathetic to it, and sending their prayers to him, because he's been in the industry, Hubs, for a long time, and it's a grind with what he's built up with the reputation that he has right now, and I don't think people understand how long it could take.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing about that, Wes made it a decision that he was going to plow deep into Twitter, and was really going to kind of brand himself through social media and through Twitter. And he was kind of the first to do it. And again, I mean, if you were in a room with Wes, you knew Wes was in the room. and I mean that in the most complimentary way in the world. He would gladly participate in any conversation, and he would gladly start any conversation he could start, because he loved a debate, he loved a discussion. And again, I mean, he was a guy that just went about his business, the right way, did things the right way. And my biggest thing with Wes and our conversations, the last 4 years, maybe even before then, did not have a lot to do with what's going on with the Vols. We didn't discuss a lot of breakdowns and plays and everything, but before a press conference, after a press conference, on a game day when I had a chance to bump into him, it was a quick discussion about how Hank was doing and, how his wife was doing and how life was going for them, because that was the most important thing to him.
Absolutely. Well said. A very sad day, and our prayers go out to the Rucker family. Wes Rucker passed away yesterday and just gone far too soon. Brent, it does feel like one of those mornings where it just feels so trivial and so shallow to talk sports. But we are going to transition to that and continue, as Wes would, to do the job and break down all things Vols, as we do with you every Friday morning. And starting, Brent, with, again, the court case we're still waiting on a decision on regarding Joey Aguilar, Judge Chris Haggerty working through all the documents. Ramon has made a request that this be released during 6 to 10 a.m. Central. I don't know if he's going to get that request granted, Brent, considering, I don't know, is this a Prime Friday news dump potential here today for Joey Aguilar?
I don't think anything's coming today. And Chris Haggerty, the judge, made it clear he was going to work through it in as quick a fashion as he could work through it. But he also noted that he had, thousands of documents to go through, in addition to going and reviewing all of his notes that he took from the bench while both sides were making their opening remarks and closing remarks. And, he's going to take this very seriously. I don't think he's going to drag it out forever, but I would be surprised if we get a Friday afternoon news dump on it at this point. I mean, I think that, maybe next week, and again, it could come this afternoon, but I would be surprised if that were the case. So we'll see. In the meantime, Joey Aguilar continues to rehab. He will go to the combine. He will do the early part of the combine where they do some of the cognitive tests and measurements, and he'll visit with some NFL folks up there. And I think part of that is that's what Joey needs to do to be ready in case he doesn't win. I think it's also a public thing for them to make that known, to try to remind Chris Haggerty that, hey man, like, this can't drag on forever. We've got to know something as well. So we'll see. Maybe early next week if it doesn't come this afternoon. And again, nobody's telling me it's going to come this afternoon. So maybe we get to it next week and we move on from there, one way or the other. I mentioned this in the War Room. There was a case in Nevada involving a baseball player who was granted an injunction. He was granted a TRO, and then he was granted an injunction late Friday, a week ago, right after the Joey Aguilar court case came to a close, after they finished in court. I'm sure those are documents that Joey's team submitted to Chris Haggerty to say, hey, you were talking about precedent. Where are these things with 5 years of eligibility at the NCAA level and all these different things? Here's an example of it as well. So just more things for Chris Haggerty to sort through as he tries to work towards this decision.
Brent, I thought it was interesting when Austin was on with us Tuesday. He made the comment, it felt maybe like 90-10 going into it, and then leaving the courtroom, it felt more like a coin flip. But do you share that opinion of just the process of the way this has kind of maybe changed, and the momentum hasn't been as much on Joey's side? And if so, Brent, when did maybe within this case and within the arguments things kind of shift a little bit?
Well, I don't know that it was ever 90-10, and I'm not disagreeing with Austin.
Sure.
I think the perception of it was 90-10
right,
because, it was a Tennessee judge at the local level who's a Vol fan. It was in Knox County Court. This was, on the surface when you looked at it, the thought process was this was set up for Joey to win, much the way it was in Oxford, Mississippi with Trinidad Chambliss. Nobody thought Trinidad Chambliss was going to lose that case. The NCAA actually noted in some court documents that their concern was that the court bled orange in Knoxville. And so the perception of it coming in was that this was going to be a laydown. I don't think that's a fair perception, but it's an easy perception to make, right? You pull yourself out of a case in Nashville and you take it into Knox County Court, and you're in front of a judge who's got 2 Tennessee degrees, and everything just looks like it's set up for Tennessee, right? And so I think that's where the perception of it came. So I don't know that it changed in reality. What changed for me was just the detail in which Chris Haggerty was asking questions to both sides in the 2 hours we were in the courtroom. And I was anticipating both sides to make a lengthy opening remark. Chris Haggerty might ask a couple of follow-up questions after their opening remarks, closing remark. We're not going to have any witnesses, and we'll be done. And in both the NCAA's opening remarks and in Joey's defense's team's opening remarks, 3 minutes into it, Chris Haggerty was asking questions, and he asked a lot of questions. He was very prepared for his questions. He asked a lot of follow-up questions based on answers he was given in that moment. And so the feeling of it was different because you realize very quickly this was not a lay down, and it was never going to be a lay down. I just think the perception of it coming in by many, because it was in Knox County, was that it would be a lay down.
No doubt about it. Hubs, when you look at the NCAA lawyer's perspective, who's also a Tennessee alum and season ticket holder as well, I thought one of the more damning things that he said was, we're Tennessee. We don't have to do this. Can I ask you a question? Do you think he really feels like this, or this is the NCAA side of it? Because there's balance to him saying that, because in the spring it's fine. But, in the fall, we get emotional about wins and losses.
I thought, and I don't know Taylor Askew. I don't know the lawyer who's representing the NCAA there. I know that was his third case of the week that he was trying, which I'm sure was a taxing week for him to try to get ready for all of them. I was surprised at two things, Ramon. One, I was surprised he kind of inserted himself from a fan standpoint. At one point, he turned to Joey Aguilar and talked about how much his kids just thought he was a hero, and he thanked him for what he had done for Tennessee. And then he turned back and just said, no offense to Joey Aguilar, but Tennessee's better than this. And, trying to suggest like Tennessee was not cheating, but I guess, the implication that Tennessee was, trying to bend the rules, and I guess is what he was making. I was just a little surprised that at that moment he made it personal. I'm not sure the NCAA would have really wanted him to do that. I just thought it was a little bit of a bizarre kind of twist in the deal, because, he had made his case and points of law on behalf of the NCAA about why there should be no change here and why Joey Aguilar's eligibility was exhausted. And then he turned like almost to say to Tennessee fans, hey, don't hate me. Don't be mad at me. I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do because we all love Joey. And then he flipped and said, but Tennessee's better than this. It was a bizarre moment from him just inserting personal things into the courtroom the way he did.
Well, Hubs, if it doesn't go Joey Aguilar's way, the plan goes to George McIntyre and Faison Brandon. The question I have, I guess the guy that's been in the chicken house the longest is George McIntyre. Hubs, we sit on two opposite ends of the spectrum, okay? If we were on seesaws, you'd never go down to the ground, okay? Like, I never had a problem, okay, putting on and holding weight, all right? You on the other side, man, you physically fit. You out here, can buy off the rack, Hubs. You know what I'm saying? What does a guy like George have to do to remove those questions, man? And will you ever see him Big Ben Roethlisberger size, or do you just want him 215? Like, what are you asking for the slight people out there, Hubs?
Well, I thank you for the PTSD this morning, because in elementary school, I ran from the seesaw because
I'm with you.
It took 4 of my friends to get me down off the seesaw, because inevitably when I got on the seesaw with someone remotely close to my weight, I looked up and Billy over there just decided he would take over the seesaw and leave me suspended in the air for the rest of recess. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that this morning, Ramon. My therapist and I will be in conversation at lunchtime.
We need a little laugh this morning, Hub. You know I'm going to bring a good vibe, man.
Thanks,
I love it.
Thanks. The 6-year-old me really appreciates that. I'm not scarred from the second grade at all, Ramon. So to answer your question, I don't think I think to look like Ben Roethlisberger, George might have to weigh 250, 55 pounds. Okay, I don't, because Ben probably weighed that himself, but I don't think George. I don't know that George can ever get there. I think at 215, George would look skinny. Wow. Okay, but here's, he's 6'7". And so what George has to do is George has to get the number up, not to make him look quote beefy. He just has to do it to be able to protect himself better. And he's working at it. I mean, he is. And it's one of those things where it's hard for him to gain weight. He really has to work at it. He really has to be focused on it. He is a personal. I mean, Derek Owens is personal with everybody. He knows everybody's story already, but George McIntyre is going to know Derek Owens really, really well throughout this entire offseason, and he's not mad about it. So, they've had George tested for everything under the sun, food allergies and everything else to try to look at him and make sure that there's nothing else going on that's been a problem for him to gain any weight and all those things. So, you just keep fighting it. You just keep working at it every day. He's put on weight since he's been here. He's probably up 5 pounds or so over the course of Derek Owens' arrival. And what you hope is that 5 becomes 10 and 10 becomes 20 between now and August. And that's what you're trying to do and where you're trying to get to. So I don't know what his body makeup is that prevents him from gaining weight, but that's something they're certainly continuing to explore as he works as hard as he can to add pounds just to create some stability and durability for him.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's our guest this morning for his weekly visit here on Ramon and Will's. Shifting gears to the hardwood, Brent, as the Vols head here to take on Vanderbilt in Memorial Gym tomorrow. What is the concern level on J.P. Estrella's left foot injury, and what do you think the X-factor matchup is in this game tomorrow?
Well, the concern factor is real. I mean, it's just they've done all the testing, and they haven't found anything there, but he's dealing with soreness in a foot that cost him, the end of last year, and that's always a concern in basketball when you're dealing with a sore foot there, and you had a stress fracture situation a year ago. So they will be cautious, even though this game's really important. I think they will be mindful and cautious to try to be smart about it and manage him the best that they can manage him here, because obviously in the postseason that they've got to have him on the floor. In terms of an X factor, if JP cannot go or is on a minute count or is limited, Jalen Carey's got to show, and he's got to finish better at the rim. And, I think Dwayne Brown's got to continue to show up. I think the most encouraging thing out of Wednesday night's game was we saw the return of Felix Okpara, and Felix played much better and was much more of a factor on the offensive end, and maybe that got Felix's mojo going back a little bit. And Felix doesn't have to make 5 jump shots, right? I mean, it's just put back layups, it's dunks, it's lobs, catch the ball cleanly, finish. Make your free throws. I mean, that's all they're asking. I know that seems like a lot, but that's all they're really asking of Felix to do. And he did that well against an undersized team in Oklahoma. And it'll be a different challenge with Vanderbilt, although Vanderbilt's going to play a lot of 5 out. Felix got to stay out of foul trouble. And, they feel like Felix can switch everything on the perimeter and still guard. He's going to have to go well without getting into early foul trouble, because he's probably, at the end of the day, no offense to Jalen Carey, he's probably the biggest X factor, because when they have a post guy going, okay, then they're a different basketball team. And Felix, if he can score 8-10 points a game, he can be their most complete post guy because of his rim protection. He is the best rim protector they have defensively. So he's going to have to play well and needs to play well down the stretch here for Tennessee.
Hubbs, you might have to spend a little overtime with your therapist and actually see if
Are we going again, Ramon?
I'm coming with you, okay?
Okay.
We're not a couple, but we're real good friends. And I feel like we need to go
feel it this morning. I really feel
together on this one. Because here, I'll even pay for this session, okay? What I'm telling you is this. Talk me off the ledge when it comes to Kim Caldwell and these Lady Vols.
I knew this was coming.
I just, 2 bad ones, the hurry-up handshake against Ole Miss, and then lost to one of the worst SEC, respectfully, baddest SEC teams last night in A&M at home. Hubbs, what we got going on?
Well, you got to defend. And let's take the CEO part out of Kim Caldwell, where clearly she has to continue to mature as a coach.
Gotcha.
And that's the handshake line. That's some of the things she says publicly. That's some of her body language and press conferences and all those things. Let's take all that out of the equation right now, okay? And that's a part she's got to evolve and grow and develop as a coach there. But let's go into the world of on the court the right now. And the problem for this team right now is their half-court defense is just not non-existent. I mean, teams are shooting, I think in their last 6 losses, teams are shooting 46% or better against her teams. I think 4 of those teams have shot 50% or better. Texas A&M missed 2 shots in the first quarter. Last night they shot 80-something% in the first 10 minutes of the game and finished at 56% for the game. But when Kim Caldwell's team had their best week on the court, they beat Alabama at Alabama and they beat Kentucky at home. They held both those teams to below 60 points. And their defense, their half-court defense, they were getting stops. They were rebounding the basketball. They were playing solid half-court defense. And, man, their half-court defense is non-existent right now. And when you look at the teams they're playing, an Oklahoma team on Sunday that is as good offensively as they are, you go to Baton Rouge to take on LSU, which everybody penciled in as a loss early in the year, even before any of this happened. Back when you're winning games, you're like, all right, back half the schedule's hard. Who goes to Baton Rouge and wins aside from South Carolina, right? Mm-hmm. And Kentucky did in an upset early in the year. But the point is LSU doesn't lose a lot at home. And then you got Vanderbilt to close it out, which is a good offensive team with an elite scorer who can get downhill. I know the concerns and the frustrations with this team offensively, and the fact that sometimes they're a no-pass possession, they're a one-pass possession, and all those are valid. All those concerns are valid. There are things they have to do better offensively. They got to reverse the ball. All the things Ron Slay knows a lot more than I know. But at the end of the day, for them to have a chance, they're going to have to learn to sit down and guard in the half court. Right. They got to keep the ball in front of them. They can't foul. They got to finish plays. They got to get back in transition defense and get set up in a half-court defense. That's, to me, where they have to improve immediately. There'll be some nights where they make some shots, and there'll be some things where maybe they can survive offensively and get hot and do some different stuff. But to have a chance to win consistently down the stretch here and do anything in the postseason, they have got to learn to sit down and guard and keep the ball in front of them, something that they are struggling mightily with right now, Ramon.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest joins us Fridays at 7:20 here on the show. Check out the War Room at VolQuest.com each and every Friday as well. Always appreciate the time, Brent. Thanks so much.
No doubt, Hubbs. I'll cash app you the fees for that session right there.
I'm just waiting for Slay to text in and want to have a mediation point with us to explain basketball to both of us, right?
No doubt.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend, man.
Yes, sir. You too. Brent Hubbs with us, presented by Ascend Federal Credit Union, your financial partner for every stage of life.